Hey, this is Laura Whitmore with the Women's International Music Network, and I'm really excited to share our She Rocks It panel tonight. We'll be talking to four incredible women in music, songwriters, people in sync and production, and just sharing some information about their careers and some insights and ideas for you guys out there. If you have questions, please, share in the comments. We'll be checking, we'll be taking a look and we maybe have some time to answer some of it. Just going to start out sharing a little bit about myself. I'm Laura Whitmore, founder of the Women's International Music Network and producer of the She Rocks Awards. And if you want to find out more about our organization, please go to thewomen.com. It's THEWIMN.com. So without further ado, I'd like to have our panelists introduce themselves and share a little bit about what they're doing now, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper into your career twists and turns and some information that we can share with everybody out there. So Susan, why don't we start with you?
Well, hi. So I'm Susan Cattaneo, and I am a singer-songwriter in the Americana style. I have had a long and lustrous career as a songwriting professor at the Berklee College of Music for like 20 years. I've recently stopped doing that because I wanted to do music full time. My history I was a writer for others in Nashville for a bunch of years, and I continue to collaborate and write with other artists now. And in addition to having a solo performing career and a side project that's also a duo. So I'm very involved in music, very involved in in supporting young artists, as well as, supporting my local community here in Boston.
Awesome. Thank you. Nicole, how about you?
Sure. I'm Nicole Pellegrino, and I'm the Senior Creative Director at BMG Production Music. I work really closely with both our sales and production, sort of sit in the middle of it all, and head our creative team. On the day-to-day, it's mostly sync, but I have a very heavy hand in forming the catalog and working with our production team, as well as all sorts of interesting projects that I get to do now, including writers' camps and some interesting projects. And I'm a piano player, a percussionist, and a mom.
Awesome. Thank you. Holly, why don't you share a little bit about yourself?
Okay. My name's Holly Knight, and I'm originally from New York. I live in Los Angeles, and I'm also a mother. I have two sons that are adults now. I've been writing for the last 4 or 5 decades, and I'm in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. I was inducted in there in 2013. What am I doing right now? Well, I'm writing, I got a publishing deal, so I've just finished writing my memoirs, which is pretty, it's inside view from a woman's point of view, what it was like to navigate through the man cave all these years and all the gaslighting and all that. Just the wonderful career I've had. And on top of that, actually, Laura knows this because she's my partner in a project, a really exciting project that we have started. And it's an amazing group of virtuoso players they're amazing. And they happen to be all women. So we've decided to sort of, not listen to the naysayers and just knock down a very, very thick wall and just basically provide an opportunity for women to start being out there as equals. And we just recorded 3 masters that Chris Lord-Alge is, I produced it. Chris Lord-Alge is going to mix it. And we're really excited about it. We're about to do a video with our first single, and it's really exciting because it's been 40 years since, I guess, the Go-Go's, who just got inducted. We're really the band that nobody's picked up the baton since then. So this has been a dream of mine for 30 years. So we're finally doing it. And Laura is, we actually met because I was the first inductee into the She Rock awards or honorees. I don't know if you get inducted, you get honored, right?
That's right.
Um, and that's how our relationship first started. And she's one of three people in the production company that we have called The Sun is a Star Productions, and also Lisa Forehand, who's a award-winning film producer. So that's pretty much taking up my time. That and raising a puppy. So,
Yeah,
a big
that'll
puppy.
do it.
A very musty.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Holly. That's right. Like Holly was literally, when I thought about the She Rocks Awards, she was the first person who said yes. She was the first person I went to, and I was like, oh my God, please, I really want to honor these women, and Holly, I was so excited to get that ball rolling with you. So thank you for stepping up to that.
It's a long time coming, right?
Yeah.
Long overdue. So.
Wendy, please share a bit about yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Wendy Griffiths. I used to kind of joke about how many years I've been in the business, but now I'm just proud of it. I've been in the music business. I think I'm almost on my 38th year. I started when I was 18, dropped out of college, got my foot in the door at Warner Brother Records. I spent 25 years at Warner Brother Records. I was the MTV and VH1 person back when that's how you sort of got your how you made money and sold the albums, was to get on the radio and then get your video added to the video channel. So I did that for 20 years, except I only had a certain amount of people I could pitch to because it was so limited. And now I'm 3 years in. I went from Warner Records to BMG. I oversaw BMG's clearance and creative sync department for 4 years, like the new BMG, right when they were in acquisition mode. It was kind of crazy, but great at the same time, because I'd spent 25 years at a label, and then I switched to publishing, and different mindset, but same kind of concept. And then I went to an independent for a couple of years, and I oversaw their sync department at Position Music. And then almost 3 years ago, I went on my own at the ripe age of 53. I left my job. I actually quit a job, which I thought I would never do because I'm such a lifer. But I was ready. I'd had 2 teenage daughters who'd sort of seen me, seen me staring at my BlackBerry for years, and I just knew I needed to be more present for my teenage daughters, who are now 19 and 22, and I've been able to be nearby for them because I have the ability to work from home. Little did I know what working from home was really going to turn into, but I'm just grateful to be able to run my own sync business during this time when it's really, really exciting. It's been exciting, but it's got even more exciting during COVID, because so many artists and touring artists who haven't been able to hit the road, want to make music and want to write. And it's been fascinating to see artists that want, keep me busy, give me projects, give me things to do. And so I love that aspect of my job, and I'm a people person, and I never really had a mentor all those years at Warner Brothers, and really never had a mentor. And so I always have gone out of my way and enjoyed mentoring people, and especially women too. I sort of made it in the music business. And then over the years, I've just watched and seen how hard it is, and everything that's gone down for women and continues to. And so I'm just a really big advocate and love to help and mentor and give advice and just be a sounding board for people, and I always love to help people with sync too, but I really like to help people just sort of with their overall career goals and give them advice and try to be there, because I didn't have anybody there for me. So it feels good to get back.
That's awesome. I think maybe I feel that way about all of you guys, that we're all super supportive of other people in the industry, other women, other songwriters, whatever. It's really nice to have that community around you. I want to ask you guys, this has happened to me several times in my career where I've pivoted in an unexpected way. And I just wanted to ask you guys about that. I know that Susan recently did a big pivot in her career. So why don't you start us off and we'll just talk about navigating that pivot and what made you feel like it was the right time and how did you kind of reconcile your, yourself with that? Because it's hard.
Well, certainly there's nothing like a good pandemic to make you really, really evaluate, like, what do you want to do in your life? And I think that, so I've been teaching at Berkeley for 20 years, as I said, and I have loved my time there. I'm very committed to my students and I give a lot. But I'm also at a stage in my life where I had like both feet, one foot in the academic world and one foot in the art world. And I was doing a lot of the same thing in both of those places, sometimes mentoring people, sometimes co-writing with people, sometimes producing people. And I found that my heart really was over in this other place a lot more. And it's not like I didn't love my students, because I did, but I just kept thinking like, oh, what if I had all of the time that I was giving to Berkeley to be able to do this thing that I'm really, really, really enjoying right now. And I think that, my kids are also, I have a 20-year-old and a 22-year-old. And so I'm in like a different phase of my life where I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to tour. And I couldn't do that when I was required to be on campus 3 days a week. And like, it just meant that I was, kind of grounded here, I guess is how I would describe it. So I was in the department meeting in March of this year, and I've been thinking about it a little bit, but in the department meeting, and my chair was like, yes, assuming we're all vaccinated, we're all coming back on campus in September. And I was like, I need to not do that. And so I literally had this like epiphany of like, it's time. The time has come. The time has come to like throw myself out of the nest and try this new thing. And cool thing, I don't regret it in any way. The only thing that I'm sad about is in that year and a half when I was teaching remotely, I had the most amazing students, amazing women, female, like singer-songwriter, amazing students. And I regret that I have not had the opportunity to meet them in real life. That's
but
my
you
one.
could still one day.
I totally could. Yeah. Well, it's funny because we were going to schedule a meeting where I was going to go and hang out at this coffee shop, and this class was going to come and meet me in real life. And it was right before Thanksgiving, and Berkeley closed because of COVID.
No.
So it's like, okay, well, we'll see about that maybe in March when, we could be outside.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I really am somebody who like, I feel very, very, very excited about this new phase in my life. I'm like thrilled about it. So. Yeah.
That's awesome. Holly, have you had to like pivot in your career?
I'm not sure what you mean by pivot. You mean like sort of reinvent myself, or?
Yeah, or maybe think like you were going in this direction and all of a sudden you're like, oh no,
right.
That direction's not working. I'm gonna have to go over here.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I have with the group because, I'm still writing and everything, but I just wanted to sort of, like I said, this was a dream I had for 30 years. So I just finally wanted to just, if not now, then when, I'm not getting any younger. So, and I also think it's just the right time for it. It's just a lot of stuff going on that's positive in the world is in all fields, whether it's medicine or politics or whatever, where our voices are getting stronger. And since music is my wheelhouse, of course, this is going to be it, Also, I started a few years ago doing master classes, not so much for the money, as just to sort of pass on what I've learned. And I've always been sort of self-taught. I don't have, this sort of formal education that a lot of people have. But I started piano when I was 4, and I studied classical and theory for 10 years. So, and I was always a good reader. So I'm very much self-taught, and no one sat down and said, look, this is what you do to write a song. But now, because I've had to learn how to translate what I do naturally into conveying it to someone else, I've learned how to do that. And in my master classes, I'm probably going to do another one starting in January, February. They're usually like on Zoom. Well, yeah, pandemic, they are on Zoom, but like 6 weeks long, 2 days a week. And I usually sort of post it on, on my social media and ASCAP. But what I found is in teaching that I've discovered things I sort of naturally did that when I explain them to people, they're very deliberate. I didn't know they were deliberate. There were a lot of things, when I was writing anthems and things like that, I can actually put into words how you write an anthem, and what that means, and things that I've learned that have not been in the written page, but I discuss a lot of it in my memoirs too. I have a lot of the sides where I'm sort of making comments about things, the obvious questions people ask songwriters, like, oh, where do your ideas come from? Or
Yeah.
all those obvious things. So
It
it's
is
just
funny though, right? That we like do these things and we don't really think about sometimes like how we do them or why we do them until
sure.
we have
And
to
I mean,
tell somebody else, right?
even watching
Yeah.
the Beatles documentary the other day
Yeah.
and looking how they were formed is no different than me. I mean,
Right.
I've always sort of like, I'll come up with, usually have a great title, but then I come up with the musical part because I was always a musician first. And then, when the lyrics come, I just phonetically mumble any old shit. And then I sort of turn it into words. And I saw them doing that and they didn't know what they were doing. Maybe at that point
Yeah.
it seemed like they knew a little more. But I'm just enjoying like just seeing, I really get off on the students that really give a shit and really want to sponge off of what I have to teach them. And I enjoy the process a lot more than I thought I would.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
So
cool.
I guess that's a pivot. I mean, I'm still writing,
Yeah.
but those are,
Yeah.
and I've gotten a lot more into writing in general as far as I'm, writing a book for a musical, I'm writing a screenplay for a movie musical. And these are all genres that I've had to sort of teach myself. And most of them I kind of sucked at when I first started. I didn't think I sucked at the time, but now when I look back at what I was writing then to what I'm writing now, you're never too old to learn and you're never too old to start doing something new.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
it's
True.
so true. And I hope people listen to that because there's a lot of naysayers out there. If you feel like there's something you're dying to do, go out there and do it. Even if you suck at it, it's like for your enjoyment before it's supposed to be for a living. If you
Yeah.
enjoy
Yeah.
doing it, that's the reason to do it.
Right.
Wendy, when you moved into your new, I guess, your new role that you have now, like, was it scary to like stop working in like, I guess, a bigger company and like move
Yeah.
into that?
I mean, I knew we were going to get to that because I was like,
Yeah.
where did I pivot? How did it feel? I
Yeah.
was 53 years old. All I'd known since I was 18 was corporate. I was getting a paycheck
Mhm.
every 2 weeks, my health insurance, sort of taking things like health insurance for granted. And
Isn't
literally,
it funny how health insurance like is like it's like a ball and chain on us,
Oh,
especially creative people.
yeah,
Mhm.
so I really, it was it was like an adjustment that I wanted, but it's also really scary, to leave a job that I was making, decent money, like resign from a job. I sold my house. I downsized.
Wow.
Downsized so that I could afford my overhead. Meanwhile, I've still got my daughters. I'm trying to keep them going. And I just literally, I started reaching out to all the managers that I worked with because I knew managers were always frustrated that they don't get the syncs. I don't get my video played. I don't get the syncs. Managers, their job is to make sure that their artists are taken care of. And I knew the managers were frustrated. And so I reached out to my management friends, and then it kind of sort of snowballed from there. And it's just, it still is like nerve wracking. You're
Mhm.
that paycheck every 2 weeks when we're on our own and we're independent. You're really waiting for when your checks come through from the placements that you've gotten, which can take 6, 7, 8 months. So it's a little different than what I'm used to. But I love the freedom, but I definitely it's a different type of energy when you have your own business. And some say I'm brave to start out at this age, but it's it's like what Holly said, go for it, just do
Mhm.
it, just go for it. So I'm like I just jumped in. If I think too much about it, I psych myself out. I just have to like get up and work. And that's one thing I found, like when you've got anxiousness or nervous energy around something, is you just get in there and tackle it and go and just start working. And then maybe those fears kind of dissipate, or that, the concern about the money and when's the next check coming. You just get into what you do and what you love, and then it ends up all
You know
working.
what else? You know what else you got to tell yourself? If they can do it, so can I. Because there's a security blanket to thinking, oh, like I went through that when I was signed to EMI Publishing for many, many years. And then came time to sort of renegotiate, and they offered me my publishers, I was at EMI, they offered me a terrible deal after I recouped like over $1 million in the second year. No thanks to them. And I left. And it was very scary because I had the cachet of, oh, I'm with EMI Publishing. I'm a real writer. You have to have enough faith to go out there and go, if they can do it, so can I. I can make more money. Like I've been self-publishing since then, and that was decades ago. But it's scary. It's scary to be out there. I even went through that in the first band I was with, Spider. I left them, and I was just writing about this in my book. I left them. And I thought, am I nuts? I took all these years to get in a rock band. We've just done our second record, and I'm going to leave them and put myself out there again. I mean, I was writing for them. Who am I going to write for now? What am I going to do? But you have to trust the process. You have to have faith, and you have to have undying faith and trust the prophet that what you're doing matters.
I think too, sometimes you can like jump in and like do so many things on the side before like you
There's always Uber.
fully commit.
That was sort of like, yeah, I feel like this, it was, I came from not a music background, like career wise. Like I did not start in music. I started doing like theater and circus and all sorts of weird gigs, and was in a percussion ensemble like Stomp, and all sorts of like cobbled together music, theater, dance. And I think after a while, like the idea of being part of an industry like this, it is a little overwhelming, and can be, for somebody coming into it who didn't necessarily like start there, it can be a little like, ugh. And I was very, very lucky to have somebody who was doing licensing, a good friend who was doing licensing, and was like, come out to LA, do this, and gave good advice. And, it was that sort of change from trying to do a million things and gigging and doing this and saying, okay, I'm going to let go of this freedom and try to focus on one thing. That was really hard. And also coming into an industry where it feels like everybody knows everything. That's really hard, I think. Coming from, I don't know, performing and doing that sort of thing where you feel like, okay, I can sort of control my own world, where there's all these rules and all this sort of shorthand. And Holly, you said it actually, like just the idea of changing or like adapting to your environment. I feel like I'm like constantly pivoting. So, for a few years, it's pitch, and you're doing playlists, and then it's thinking about this thing, and then it's learning production that I didn't know Logic or Pro Tools or any of that. And then it's like, okay, well, now I need to know that. So I feel like every, few months, there's something where you're like, oh, okay, be flexible, go, be open and try it. And just like trust that you're going to arrive with a good amount of openness and skill and, aptitude to like just go for it. And I think that's a practice too, like reminding yourself that you're allowed to do this, and that you're meant to be where you are, and that you can try to make the art you want to make, or be in the space that you want to be in, and you have a voice. Like that's really a practice to remind yourself to do that, I think.
I think too, like sometimes you don't know like what's going to be exciting to you later, like to have that open-mindedness and be willing to just be like, let me try this. That to me is the fun part, although it can make your life feel very, very full, like a lot of times in a good way, but sometimes in an insane way. So yeah. Sorry, I was just having a little trouble with my earbuds, but I think I'm good now. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about where you see opportunity in your field. And you know, I want to be able to give the people watching like a little advice. So if I was interested in writing for Sync or working in Sync, for example, Nicole, I'm going to start with you. Like where are the opportunities and what do you see happening, like trending in your field that people might want to know?
For sure. I think the thing that's most exciting is that there's so much opportunity. So there's so much more media now. I mean, I started in around 2012. And even in the last 10 years, it's wild how much media has changed. You know, you can be an artist and blow up on TikTok or blow up on Spotify or blow up in all these other sorts of ways. I mean, music is showing up in NFTs. There's all sorts of weird, cool, wild places that music can find a foothold and fans and people who appreciate it. With Sync particularly, you know, it's also cool because you can work at all sorts of levels. You know, if you're a songwriter who's up and coming, or if you're a songwriter who has a long history of songwriting, we're very lucky that, you know, we are tied to BMG, so we do get to work with some songwriters who have, you know, written for some of the legacy catalog and some top liners. But we also get to work with people who are amazing artists whose music should be heard everywhere. So, you know, there's a lot of different platforms. I think the coolest thing is it's also because you have so much great tech, it really democratizes how great the music can sound. So really the thing is, you know, write the thing that feels true to you. You know, use your network and use your artist space to learn and brainstorm, and all that is so helpful because we see, like, just this last writers camp we did, we had a really great group of artists, and afterwards there were all these organic connections that were happening. They were like, oh, you do Latin beats, okay, I really want to do something with you, and just show me how to do this, or let me just hop on with you and we'll just like fiddle with this. And all that sort of networking that can happen over Zoom or you know, platforms like Teams or whatever it is, that also sort of democratizes like how great the music can sound, or how new, and how so many new ideas that come out of that, you know, an artist's kind of world of like shared references. So I will say it is interesting to see, I think TikTok and Spotify both, and there's some other platforms too, but TikTok and Spotify obviously have like really set the momentum on charts and all that. Gail's like a great example, right? She's what, 14 or 15, and she blew up on TikTok, and it's like it's crazy. You saw that with the sea shanties thing, right? It's just a wild trend that takes off and it takes hold, and then everyone's doing like remixes, EDM remixes of sea shanties. So it's like you never really know. I think that there's not like, you know, there are trends that come in and out, like, you know, 90s are big, or moving into the 2000s, and everyone's like getting into that realm of stuff. But it changes so quickly now that I think the best thing you can do is like write what feels true to you and put your stuff out there. Reach out to people, and don't be afraid to reach out, because everyone's wanting to put good music out. You know, like on our side, we want to see songwriters highlighted. So yeah, I think it's right to your truth, and don't be afraid to share it.
Does anyone else have anything to add, like where you see opportunity, like in songwriting and Sync and anything, something else?
I do.
Yeah, Holly, go ahead.
Well, they love 80s music, so I've been having a lot of success. I had a lot of songs that were evergreen songs that appeared on a lot of shows, whether it was Schitt's Creek. That was I had The Best, which I wrote for that Tina Turner did, was on 3 episodes of that, and now it's become like the wedding anthem for the LBGT community, which is fantastic. You know, Biden's victory speech, that was my favorite moment when they played The Best. And there was a show called Glow, the gorgeous, what is it? Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling or something. Yeah. They used The Warrior, which I wrote. and Invincible. Then there's musicals. I think one of the things that, even if you're not the writer on a song, one of the things that seems very popular right now is remakes, unrecognizable versions of recognizable songs. And I've heard some pretty stunning ones, that end up getting movies. And it seems that movies especially are using that a lot, or you'll hear it on like one of those cable network, like Netflix. You'll hear a song that but it's completely different.
There's
they
like a
actually
creepy
pay-
minor key version of like what was an upbeat song, right?
Yeah, right. And I've had people do it with my songs. I've even done it myself. I have a version of Love is a Battlefield that's very like Nine Inch Nails that got used on Dynasty, that I had a upcoming singer named Sarah Skinner sing on it. And that got licensed. So even if you're not the writer and you have a home studio and you can just pick random songs that you think are cinematic and epic sounding, and I would suggest putting a reel together, because I think it's very dangerous to just say, oh, I heard this show might be doing a casting for songs. And sometimes you go to these houses they're sort of like middle people or like aggregates that will send the songs. Is that kind of what you do, Nicole? Do you send it to music supervisors and stuff?
Right. We do represent some
house that-
music, and then we produce
Right.
music as well.
So there are houses out there that their only job is to just say, they'll ask you for a reel though. So when they want a song, it's very, very, very quick. It's not like, oh, I'll give you a perfect example. They called me. I had this one company, and they called me that I was working with, and they called me and said, well, there's this orange company, and they're called Simply or something. You've probably seen the grocery store. It's an orange juice thing, Simply orange juice or whatever. And they said they want something that talks about the best and simply. And I'm going, well, duh, simply the best, right? Why don't I just send them that? And they said, yeah, but they're not going to license. They don't want to use the Tina Turner version because that's going to cost millions of dollars. So they need a new version. Do you have a new version? And I said, well, I have my own version, but it's not a different version. They said, no, we need something that sounds like Saturday morning. I said, well, I'm out of town. I'm going to come home over the weekend. I could put a ukulele, and I have the perfect male singer to sing on it, and it'll be just, you can smell the pancake and syrups when you hear it. And they said, well, I said I could have it by Monday. They said that's too late, so I lost it. But that's like, they wanted that day, like in a few hours, and they want this sort of unilateral, which I never agreed to, unilateral consent to use the song, so they don't have to wait to go back and forth, because it's that quick. If they don't use yours, they're going to use someone else's. So there's that. There's the same thing with like recording different versions for commercials. That's very big. And I think to focus on film and TV is really a great way to start, because if they like you, they might start using you for more things. And then if you happen to have a song something really big, it can go viral on its own, and it will open the door for so many other things. Plus they pay you pretty good money. The other thing that actually, and this is terrible, they pay better money than they do to the songwriters. But if you have a home studio where you can produce the trailer soundtracks, for some reason, they have a huge budget for that. They pay more for that than the song. If you write an original song, but it's good money. Like if you're into that, and you can sort of do, sound to picture and do something exciting and know how to edit. There's a whole art to it.
That's another quick turnaround job.
Right. And then, right.
Yeah.
And it's, I was offered once by a really well-known TV producer to score a TV show. And I turned it down because it is it's like a factory thing for 6 years. Of like, and I didn't want to give all my ideas away just on sound scores. I wanted to save them for songs, But that's another thing you can do if you have an inclination for composing and you don't write songs, but you're composing. That's a great avenue.
Yeah.
I would love to just kind of address it from the creative and inspiration point of view, in the sense that I think that it is really important to kind of realize that sync is very different than your intimate personal album, where you're talking about, your dad who's named Joe and your dog who's named this. That also can work, but specifically for sync, they're looking for really broad themes. They're looking for I love the fact that Holly mentioned like kind of anthemic, cinematic, because if you think about what you're going to want to hear on a movie, if a music director has a specific thing, he's like, oh, I've got this couple, they're meeting in the rain, and I need something that says they're going to break up, but maybe not today. And so it has to be something that is maybe not today is the hook. Do you know what I mean? And so it has to be, it's a different form of writing almost. It's a different form. It's more like you're writing with a broad stroke as opposed to writing with a fine point. And I think that that's something that, the friends that I know who've had a lot of success in sync, they tend to write these really broad songs about home, songs about friendship, songs about love, songs about overcoming, trouble. And I think that those are easier to pitch, and they're also kind of easier to place because they can be in different places. That's
Yeah,
so.
Wendy, I want to hear what you have to say.
I'm nodding. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I remember once being at a label and telling the A&R people, I was like, I need songs about non-romantic love. And like half the room looked at me like, what is non-romantic love? And I'm like, loving life, loving your family, loving the day, non-romantic love. And so I explained it to them. And Susan, you were totally accurate with that. I always tell artists, write what is true to you, right? Because you don't want to tell an artist to like what to write. But if you're interested in writing for sync, you want to hit on those topics that Susan's mentioned. I like to call it, that sort of, there's an openness to it, right? A lot of times, and you can kind of tell, I have my phone out all the time and I'm Shazamming, because I get so many great shows on and there's so much good music. And, sometimes I can tell, and, there's made for sync music, which Nicole and I both know a lot about because it's kind of what is so prevalent right now. And with so many artists wanting to create music, plus this can be more affordable. And those people, I think, kind of have clued in on those themes and that sort of the generalities that Susan talked about, where it's not too lyric specific and it's not about Joe and his dog named Sam. Like those songs, again, those are personal songs, but those just like don't work. And there's something sometimes too about a song with a little bit of repetition for ads. And then there's also that crescendo, Holly's talked about epic and cinematic, the supervisors have, the waveform readers. Nicole probably knows what it's called because she's more excited than I am. You can look at, the SoundCloud file and you can see if the song is linear, you can see if it builds. And I've watched supervisors.
Wow, I've never thought of that they
Yes.
look at that.
Here's my finger on my keypad. So a supervisor goes click, 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 click.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking 10 seconds. We're talking 15 seconds. Click, 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 click.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right.
Agreed.
What I tell artists is like, I don't need a 20-second lead in. Like you got to get to it.
Right.
You got to get to it. You got to get to it. And then what you want to do is they're looking at that waveform and they're seeing if that song is flat or if it builds. And I've gone, Nicole, I love to tell the story back at BMG, John Legend, All of Me. We had his publishing. He had a huge hit. We couldn't get a license on it. We were just like, we sat and we talked and we're like, you know what? We need the song needs to build. We need it. We need a builder. We went to the label, Sony. We got the stems from the record company. And so as the publisher, we built out All of Me and added strings and a whole crescendo at the end.
Wow.
We got a trailer for a romantic comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like where you have to be willing to like take the time to go do something like that to make a difference when you're stuck and you're frustrated. But that kind of is the level of like an artist that you can be. And if the song may not grow the way it should grow, because if you knew if it grew, you'd get that trailer, you'd get that promo. So we often do that, tell people like, try to create a bit of a crescendo. Yet I also contradict myself because I watch these amazing shows on TV and it's just these simple, magical moments.
Indie sort of meandering. Yeah.
They have those moments. There's these TV shows where it's just this dramatic moment, and this just beautiful singer-songwriter comes in, and you're just like, oh my God. And I'm like Shazamming, like, who is this person? Like, my jaws dropped, and then I contradict myself, and I'm like, oh, well, we need some stuff that's repetitious, about non-romantic love. So it's a wide open field right now, but there's definitely some consistencies to music for sync songs that you'll hear. And I always tell people this, and then I'll finish up. I tell people, watch morning television, pretend you're the band mom, watch those morning TV spots, just don't fast forward the commercials, put the Today Show on, whatever it is, and listen to how the ads are marketing to moms and pharmaceuticals and whatnot. Then I tell people, just make yourself grin and bear it, put on a network channel, watch network TV, 1 or 2 nights, put on CBS, NBC, watch the promos, watch the commercials, do not fast forward through any of it, listen to all that stuff, right? Pick one of your favorites, even if it's not your favorite show, watch NBC on Wednesday nights, all the Chicago shows, whatever it is. And in one night, you can glean and pick up a lot. And the last thing I tell people to do is to try, even if you record it, if you're not a late night person, try to record late night TV, watch SNL, watch TV from 10 to 1, like those late night hours, because you see all the really cool tech ads, you hear all the hipster music, you hear the cool instrumentals, you hear that band that you might only hear in KCRW, or that band where you're like, oh my God, this is so cool, I'm never going to know who this is, and you Shazam it and you're like, yep, never heard of that. Or you're like, oh my gosh, I just read about that band the other day. So I try to tell people morning TV, primetime network if you can, and then watch a little bit of late night TV, because you really get you get really 3 good chunks of the different styles of music that we're hearing that can be very sync friendly, or within the TV shows that are just these beautiful emotional moments.
And one other thing, as an artist, if you are really trying to chase the sync license thing, make sure that if you're going to spend the money to mix and master your albums, that you make sure to do a mix minus, meaning that you have a mix version without your lead vocal on it, so that in case you get placements, they can edit it down to a 15-second promo or whatever they need. You need to, I made the mistake of not doing that and then had to pay the expense because I had an opportunity to have a placement, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. You want your instrumental, you want your TV track, you want your version with the oohs and the ahs in the background, and you definitely want an instrumental. And then when you're cold pitching to people, and I don't know how many of you are out there right now, but I think Nicole knows what it's like, but LinkedIn is good, our websites are good. I'll even, if it's a cold email and you're polite and you don't send me like a dissertation with like 3 albums. Like if you send me like 4 or 5 songs, and you tell me I'm really focused, this is what I feel like I'm good at, and I don't respond the first time, it's just because I'm busy. But generally by like the second or third time I've got an email from someone that's like polite, consistent, I click on it, and if there's 15 songs, I shut it down, because I'm like, I don't have time to listen to 15 songs right now. But if they're really precise, I try to discover and I'll find music that way. And I think someone asked about TikTok. I've got a lot of, I've got some successful artists right now that everybody wants a viral hit. Would you be on TikTok? It depends. Do you want to be on TikTok? Should you be on TikTok? Like, it's if you want to be on TikTok.
Yeah, I think you have to pick.
Amen.
Choose there, because nobody has time to do it all.
You should have some sort of, have your Instagram. I mean, Facebook, they joke with us, Facebook's for older people, but sorry, I've got a Facebook. Like maybe, a 12-year-old doesn't want to be on Facebook, but like it's helpful if you want to be, but be authentic to yourself, because there's nothing worse than trying to see somebody like 45 or 50 years old, like trying to be funny on TikTok, But right now, sync people, do I look to see how many followers someone might have after 2 or 3 emails where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to pay attention to this. I will go look and see, but that doesn't mean I won't not listen to the music if there's only like 2,000 followers. If they've got 15 or 20,000 followers, I'm like, oh, maybe I should listen to this. But it doesn't stop me from not listening to music just because people are getting started, and I like to give people a shot, give people a break and help them.
Yeah, I have definitely noticed, you were talking about having the instrumental track. Like a lot of times they'll have like a line or two or a verse or whatever, chorus or whatever, and then it moves to the instrumental for the rest of it. So I was also thinking, I was also noticing like your idea of what you're trying to get across in the song has to be really concise, because they're not going to use your whole song. They're going to use like one little piece.
Yeah, even
There's this like
U2's Beautiful Day. I mean, I don't want to compare it to U2, but think about just that song, or even I'm dating myself. Yeah, I'm really dating myself. The Black Eyed Peas, Tonight's Gonna Be a Good Night. There's like a repetition to these songs. Tonight's gonna be a good night. But it's fun. It's up tempo.
Yeah, and that's the part they'll use. They won't use anywhere.
U2 and Coldplay just explode into the beauty of the day, right? They have that epic explosion that just makes you sort of feel good. And brands like that when a song kind of explodes into beauty.
I think that's like the most important thing is like the single idea, right? Like I had this great choreographer teacher in college who used to talk about like when you start a dance, you start just with your thumb and you just like keep moving your thumb, and then you let the thumb sort of inform the rest of the body. And like I think it's interesting because like similarly, like the songs that feel like they've gotten the most traction, or we pitch over and over and over again, or we cut up all the stems, remix them, add an overlay, do a trailerized version, and then strip them down and then do the minimal linear build to just like a at the end. Like you can do that with a great song, and you can chop it up and move it and place it in a bunch of different ways. If the idea is always about loss and that idea comes through and it feels authentic and the song's good, like you can do a million things. Like Holly, you were saying with the covers, that's like we do so many covers, and it's because those songs have such staying power. You hear it, it stays with you. Like the message rings true. I think the cool thing too is like right now there's been such an amazing openness and like demand for diverse catalog. So I think in the past, like people would pigeonhole themselves a bit to say, well, I only write for this because I'm blank, or I only write this way because I'm blank. And that's just not true anymore. Like you can write to your authentic voice, and perhaps you come from a certain like writerly background, or you play a tabla, or you play an instrument that's unconventional, but you know how to produce. That gets placed in Apple ads now. Like there are all sorts of really unique instruments and voices out in the world. And that's like the thing that's been most exciting for me, especially in the last couple of years, is like we've wanted a diverse catalog and wanted women to be, front and center in a lot of different ways. And the coolest thing is like clients are getting that now. Like we have people coming to us saying like, we're open, send us your ideas. They just need to sound contemporary and punchy and have some cuttable moments. Great. I'm going to send you a rainbow of options and like some wild stuff. And that's cool too, that people are open to that. Like, of course, for trailers, like there's structure there, right? And for TV, like the wedding dance song is always going to get asked for. But in a lot of spheres, like gaming is another really exciting avenue I've been finding. There's so much opportunity in gaming. It's wild. And that's really exciting for me because you have a lot of really interesting voices and sounds and reimaginings of songs and games.
Yeah, somebody just asked about do people take chances on older unknown artists? Does age matter still? Like I'm imagining NSYNC, like nobody cares how old anybody is.
No, it's all about the sound of it, which is so cool. I love that.
It's about the sound. It's about the sound they're going for. It's about if your voice is mature and they're looking for a mature voice versus, they'll tell you in the brief what they're looking for, open to all styles, and especially like I find with Americana artists, and I'm even seeing briefs for country music a little bit more than I used to. I don't think it really matters as long as you feel good about your voice and your voice is produced well. I don't think age really matters.
Yeah, I think
No.
it's more about do you fit the style? Do you fit what
Yeah, I
people are
mean, if
looking
they
for?
send us
The
if they
vibe.
send us something and they're referencing, a bunch, Olivia Rodrigo and a bunch of like 18-year-old or 15-year-old,
Yeah.
okay, I got to send my younger female sounding songs. If they're like referencing, older acts or vintage acts, also catalog is massive right now. Vintage catalog for me, I mean, it's crazy. Like when I'm on these panels and I talk to people, like if someone reaches out and they're like, oh, I got my grandfather's music from 64 through 69. I'm like, let's talk. Like
Mhm.
talk on the phone
It's so,
because it is crazy right now.
That's
And
funny.
vintage, think of all the TV shows and all these amazing shows that are taking place in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Like it's the music from the 2000s is now almost catalog as much as I can stand to admit that. 90s is totally catalog. So it's just every couple of years, every 5 years, so decade specific. And if, I always tell people, or people come up to me and they say, oh, my uncle used to play at the Brill Building and was, the studio session guy. And he's got all these cuts that
Oh my gosh.
never got cut, but that he sang on, and he wrote, and they're all one stop. I'm like, I would love to hear those, because we see requests for vintage every day.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and new styles with new voices too. Like there's a like a Sophie Tucker remix with it's interesting, and they were like a vintage act, and then are now producing some more like contemporary music and remix that, and it's older voices with a wild sort of house tropical sound, and that's cool and got placed in an ad, so it could be anything. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Mhm.
I think we were talking earlier about, trying different things, talking to people. I find it challenging right now during the pandemic. Like I'm such a huge believer in networking. And I would always tell people that panels were like my secret weapon. Like if I wanted to meet somebody, I would invite them to a panel. If I saw they were doing a panel, I would go watch it and then go up afterwards and say hello. Like I would, go to shows. I think showing up is really important in life. But like, what do you do now? Do you guys have any ideas or thoughts on how do you get to the people? I know we talked about LinkedIn a little bit, but any other thoughts there?
I mean, really quick, I joined the Guild of Music Supervisors because they've been doing so many events during the pandemic and showcases. And I mean, for a while there, they were cranking out events like every week. And it would be a nice place for me to go and network, even if I'm just chatting and saying hello to somebody. We tend to harass people with those things. But I've found that going to some of these Zooms and some of these events online, they see your name, you say hi, you now know what they look like, you know what they're working on. You can always get some bit of information if you're listening and really paying attention, and some little snippets to take back with you. So I still feel that people are tired of the Zooming and the lack of being in person with one another, I still think it's really important to attend the events and log in when you can and listen and take notes. And I always get tidbits of what to do or what not to do.
Yeah, I think you're right. Because like then you could say, when somebody messages you, they could say, hey, Wendy, I saw you speak at the She Rocks It panel, and I liked this comment you had. And by the way, here's a song.
Fun clients through doing interesting people.
I have a website, so if anybody wants to reach out to me, you just write me, and it goes via that into my email, and I, usually answer. So, if anybody wants to ask me anything.
Yeah, I think that's true. I get so much email; it's hard for me. It's a little insane, but
You know what I used to do in the 80s? Of course, it was a different world back then, but I agree. Networking was like my MO. It was like, so we didn't have social media. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have shit, you know? But what we did have was one-on-one time. We would all go out to clubs. I would go out to a lot of clubs. I would go to concerts. I would get like the nosebleed seats and just get one seat. I would go alone, so that I could maneuver down to the good seats at the bottom. And then when the bouncer wasn't looking, he was either flirting with the groupies or breaking up a fight, I would dash backstage. And then I would it was like a whole nother world back there, but I did some of my best networking there. I usually sort of gravitated towards the photographers, because they always had, you know, they had all access passes to everything, including the after parties. And they would usually invite me. And I would just start talking to people, and one person knew someone else. And I mean, that's how I got in my first band, was just like, I met someone who was the drummer in Bob Dylan's Rolling Thunder band. And he introduced me one night to some people that ended up being my first band. It's just like getting yourself out there. And unfortunately now, because of social media, because of the pandemic, we're also very, you know, we're all indoors, and we're not getting it. We're not sort of doing it in the natural way. We're not even dating anymore naturally. Everything's done by catalog. You know, I'll have one of those and one of those, and I'll take him, and you know, and it just never works out the same. It's just, you know, things happening organically, you know. Also, I want to say, as far as the thing that Wendy, you were talking about, songs like climaxing and the waveform opening up more, that's so interesting. You know, The Best was released, and Bonnie Tyler, the artist Bonnie Tyler, cut it, and it really didn't do much. And then Tina Turner heard it. And so it wasn't really written for Bonnie Tyler either. It was written for someone else. But when they passed on it, Tina got a hold of it, and she said, I love this song and I want to cut it. And by then she'd cut like a lot of my stuff. But she said, I want a bridge. And I wanted to go up a key after the bridge. I needed for it to open up. I can't sit right now. It's very, like you were saying, linear. She didn't use the word linear, but that's basically what she was saying. And she was so right. I learned so much. We actually rewrote the song after it had already been released, and then we had to re-register it, and then she cut it. So it wasn't written for her, but it was meant for her. And it's been the biggest song, the most versatile song. And the other thing I wanted to say was, we never thought when we were writing it, I think what all you gals have been saying is true, is that you have to write from an honest place. You have to keep it real and write what you know and what you feel. And you can't be sitting going, I'm going to write the biggest cash cow ever. You know, just sort of like, you write what you know and you love. And I had no idea when I wrote that song what was going to happen to it, but it's been 80% of my catalog as far as earning potential. And we got, you know, we touched a nerve. The Best, you know, that is like the most marketable, like if you think about it, simply The Best is very, very marketable. It could be for anything. It could, as Tina said, it could be about a horse. That's why she had a horse in the video. It could be about anything, and it's universal. But we didn't think that when we were writing it. So you hope you get that lucky, but you got to come from an honest place. Because I know when I had a publishing deal, like I was supposed to write X amount of songs a year. And towards the end, if there were one or two songs I still sort of owed the publishing company, I would race through. I'd be writing it for the wrong reason. They were the worst piece of shit, like songs that I've ever written, you know? So it doesn't work like that. You really have to write. You have to love music. You have to care about what you're writing about. You have to take the time to write lyrics that are relevant and sophisticated and not just stupid. Even if they're simple and they're repetitive, there's an art to that, you know? It's like when you can have a supermodel, but she still needs to have some makeup. You want that just, you know, sort of woke up and you've just been freshly, you know what? It doesn't just sort of happen. You know, you have to make it look like that. And so you have to kind of go through it. It can't be, it's not things, really good things are not fake. Really good things are the real things. They're the ones that are iconic, that set the trends for everybody else to copy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Susan.
I just was going to say like two things if I could. Yeah. One, you also have to write a lot. You have to write a lot, because if you think about it, each song is kind of like a little bit of land, and you want to be able to have a lot of real estate out in the world, because that gives you more opportunity to be heard. It gives you, so I would say to artists to write a ton, collaborate with a ton of people, like really just try and get into a lot of different communities. And I love the fact that Wendy was like, if you write politely to me,
Yeah.
I will listen to you. I think that that's also something you tend to feel really, like, oh, I can't bother anybody. And I also think that, they say that it takes like 3 times or 3 or 4 times for people to hear from you before they even consider listening to you, whether they like you or not. So I think,
And those are your
sometimes-
friends.
right?
Yeah.
And relatives, and
Everybody's
sometimes
really busy.
and sometimes, like, I think as an artist, it's like, this is my baby. And you're like, do you like my baby? And if the person doesn't respond, there is this tendency as an artist to be like, oh my God, I'm terrible. I'll never
Like,
make
"You hate my
anything again.
baby." Yeah.
Right. And it really isn't about that.
Yeah.
It's people are really busy. Laura gets 1,000 emails.
Yeah.
She's not going to respond. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
people are busy.
totally.
So just remember that it's not personal. It's
Mm.
just, work hard, put a lot of stuff out there, and don't give up.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, that's a great way to wrap this up. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Holly, and thank you, Nicole and Wendy. This has been a great panel. I wish we had like another hour. It's so awesome. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll be posting this on our Facebook and our YouTube. You can watch it again. I just want to let you guys know about a couple things. We'll be having another She Rock Showcase in January coming up, so please sign up for our newsletter. We'll tell you about all the opportunities and events coming up. It's at thewomen.com. Oh, it's scrolling across the bottom now. We also have a couple of really great items up on Charity Buzz right now. If you go to CharityBuzz.com and search for the Women's International Music Network, we have the opportunity to take part in the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp that is like all women, which is at the end of January. And it has artists like Melissa Etheridge, Nancy Wilson, Orianthi. Like, you can get up there and rock with these women. So check that out on Charity Buzz. And we also have a really amazing package that was donated by Black Star that includes a guitar and an amp and a session with Carmen Vandenberg from Bones UK. So some really fun stuff up on Charity Buzz as a fundraiser for the Women's International Music Network. And I also just want to thank MAC Cosmetics, who's a really great supporter of women in music. And they help us feel beautiful and inside and out. And we love them. So thank you. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us. And
My pleasure. It was really nice to meet you, ladies. I'm sure our paths will cross now that we know each other. They should. I have some songs.
Yeah. Wendy, I'll be emailing you with just 4.
All right, guys.
So
Thanks a
nice
lot.
to meet you all. Thanks, Laura.
Okay,
Thank you.
have a good night, everybody.